And then we'll get going. Oh my goodness, teaching synchronously is my preference, but yet it requires a lot of planning and organizing. So I'll get through it. Good morning, welcome back. Happy Monday to you. Today we're going to move on to the next step of our enclosed project. I should point this way for people who are at home. And so if you were not here on Friday, that means you didn't start your porcelain project. And so for you folks, you're going to watch along, listen in. But what I'll ask is that when everybody else is getting to work today on the next steps today, I'm going to ask that you go back to Friday's daily video and watch that daily video. There were some notes there. There was information and pictures of the project and steps on starting. And then I'll show you where all the supplies are and help you get started too. And people who are gone on Friday, you should theoretically be able to get caught up today and do both steps, both Friday's step and today's step today in class. So I hope you had a really good weekend. It was beautiful out there. It's supposed to be beautiful today. I don't know that it's like going outside for class weather, but there's going to come a point where it's going to be nice enough. And if you guys want to work outside, you can work outside. But today, I don't know that that will be the case. All right, so last week, just to remind you what we've done, we made 3 clay symbols that represent the 3 phases of your life. We're going to do something with the porcelain one today. So you're going to be taking out just the porcelain object, and we're going to be using that for making slip today. We're going to review, last week we reviewed some prior knowledge, like what is stoneware, what are the 5 stages our clay goes through, what does slaking mean? We reviewed some of those things that you learned in Strengths A and Strengths B. And then we also learned some new words like porcelain. You learned about porcelain, what that is. You learned about horsehair firing. And so there was some new knowledge there as well. And then on Friday, because we did have school on Friday, we were in person on Friday, we made a bowl form out of porcelain clay by taking a plastic bowl and using it as a press mold. You pressed the porcelain into the plastic bowl to make it take on that shape. So today, the goal is, well, let me advance to today. Today, our goals, the things we're going to accomplish, we're going to take that little porcelain object and we're going to slake it. We're going to melt it down to make some porcelain slip. We won't need the slip today, but we'll need it tomorrow. So we're going to make the porcelain slip, get it all shook up and ready to go for tomorrow. We're going to check the bowl that you made on Friday and make sure it's leather hard. Remember that leather hard stage is the magic stage where you can move it around and it holds its shape pretty well. It's very strong, but you can still score and slip. You can still do whatever you want to the leather hard stage. And so that's what we're hoping that our pots are in today so we can pop them out of the bowl. And then we're going to make a second porcelain bowl because remember, this is an enclosed project, which means 2 bowls are going to come together to make a solid sphere, at least temporarily. It's going to be a solid sphere. We are going to have to put a hole in it somewhere so it won't blow up in the kiln. And you can decide what it ends up being. Is it going to be a vase? Is it going to be a tiny pitcher? Is it going to be a watering can? Is it going to be a planter? And then eventually, this is the project that we're going to horsehair fire. This is the only project we're going to horsehair fire. So if you want to participate in that horsehair firing that we're going to do in April, this is the project that it's going to be done on because this is the brightest white clay. And this is the only project we're using porcelain on. So those are our goals for today. So some things you need to know before we begin. As I just said, this is the only project that's going to get horsehair fired. So if that at all sounds interesting to you to participate in, we're going to do it in April when it's nice and warm outside. If you want to fire it, when you choose to bisque fire it, so the first firing, which is normal, it's done in here just to make it permanent. When you choose to bisque fire it, I ask that you consider donating $1 to cover the cost of the clay and the glaze, not the glaze, but the clay and the fuel for the kiln that's going to be outside. And I have some horsehair, but I'm probably going to have to go online and buy more horsehair unless anybody has a horse. If you have a horse and don't mind like giving it a little bit of a haircut, we could use the horsehair to make sure that everybody has enough. But anyway, if that horsehair firing seems interesting to you, this is the only project that's going to have that happen to it. So just wanted to make that clear. Because you're advanced students, what should be a really important skill that you have or that you learn real quick is how to gauge which stage your clay is in. So you really need to be good at sensing whether the clay is leather hard or not. And one of the things that you can use to gauge what stage your clay is in is what does it feel like? So if you push your fingertip into that clay and it squishes like Play-Doh, like really soft, fresh Play-Doh, it's probably plastic and probably too soft to do the steps that we need to do today. In which case then you step over there to the hairdryer counter, or you step in back. There's another hairdryer counter in back now, so we can, have more room. People at home, you might need to find a hairdryer to dry out your bowl to get it to the leather hard stage as well if it's too wet today. If you push your finger into that clay and it feels like cheddar cheese, I would assume that we all know what cheddar cheese feels like. It's yielding if you push hard enough, but yet it's kind of firm. That's the ideal stage. That's probably leather hard. In fact, most artists refer to the different stages in terms of cheeses. And they say that the plastic stage is like brie cheese, but I didn't know how many high school students know what brie cheese feels like. So I thought Play-Doh was a more accessible metaphor. But cheddar cheese, I think we all know about. So if you press the clay and it feels pretty firm, but if you push hard enough, it would yield to your pressure. It's probably leather hard. Now, if you push on it and it doesn't yield at all, that's probably bone dry or almost bone dry. And that's a bigger problem. If your project is bone dry, that kind of locks you out of being able to do any other step until we rehydrate that clay. So what we would do is take a water bottle and we would spray the inside of your clay, or you could take a wet paper towel and lay the wet paper towel up against the clay to rehydrate it, and that would take maybe 20 minutes to 30 minutes to rehydrate the clay. So hopefully we don't have to do that. Hopefully everybody's clay is leather hard today. Now, people who are at home, I know there's only 2 of you on right now, but if you run out of porcelain at home, please let me know, because I can bring you more. I didn't know exactly how much to give you in your little bags, in your swag bags. If you need more, just let me know. Just reach out and let me know. All right. Any questions at this point on anything that I've gone over so far? Okay, great. So the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to make our porcelain slip. So on the tables in front of you, there are little containers, plastic containers. And let's see, I need one more. Now, these containers are ones that kids have either used for engobe or they've used for slip last trimester, so they're not clean. So one of the first things you're going to have to do is clean them really well. Then you're going to take, and people who are at home, you have 3 small containers that look like the image you see on the screen. They should all be these small containers. They're probably in your Ziploc bag. You're just going to take one of those containers. And then everybody's going to take just your porcelain object, just the little porcelain thing that you made. It should be in your locker. It should totally be bone dry by now. You're going to put it inside that container once it's clean. And then you might have to break it to make it fit in there. I don't know if you made something really long. You might need to break it to put it in there, and that's fine. And then you're just going to fill it with warm water until the object is half submerged. Like, don't fill up the container like totally full with water and your project is like only that small. We want the project to be only half covered with that warm water. Then bring it back to your table, and then if you leave the cover off, you'll kind of be able to peek at it and you'll see it start to slate. You'll see the little clay particles just falling and trickling like snow to the bottom of your container as the water rips those little molecules apart. And by, after 20 to 30 minutes, it should all be slate. It should all be melted down. Then you can put your lid on tight, shake it up really well to mix your slip, and then just keep that in your locker till tomorrow. We're not going to need the slip today. We're not scoring and slipping today, but we are tomorrow. So you need to prep your slip today. The other 2 objects you have in there, your stoneware thing and your raku thing, you do not need to make that slip today. We won't need that slip for another week or so. Then the people who are at home, if you want, and actually people who are here too if you want to take your other objects and put them into the other containers, you can do that. Just make sure to label them, because the stoneware one and the raku one, they look very similar to each other. So just put a piece of tape on top and write on top with a pen or a Sharpie. People who are here in class, if you want to do that today, there are extra plastic containers here and extra plastic containers over here. So again, you would need to clean them. You could just put your object dry inside there and just keep them in there until we're ready to use them, or just keep them how they are right now too. That's fine as well. No need to slate them at this time. So that's the first thing you're doing today is you're making your porcelain slip. The second thing that you're doing today is you're taking your press mold and your porcelain bowl that we made on Friday, and you're opening it up and you're assessing what stage is it in. So when I open this up and feel it, it has that cheddar feel. So if I pushed hard enough, I'd be able to squish it, but it has a pressure to it that it doesn't really squish when I push on it. If I push my fingernail in, my fingernail would go in, but just the pad of my finger, it resists that pretty well. So that's a good sign that this is leather hard. So if it truly is leather hard, it's gonna be pretty easy to take out. All I have to do is lift my bag and it comes out. So then I'm carefully gonna peel my bag away. And probably because of the bag, there's probably a million little wrinkles in the surface of the clay. Don't worry about that. We're gonna fix all of that. We're gonna fix this janky lip once everything is put together and we have our solid sphere. Then we're gonna do a lot of scraping and shaping and smoothing to make that surface look a lot better. Okay, so try not to be too bothered by the fact that this isn't super perfect looking yet. So once you have your project out, keep it on your tray. I don't have a tray myself. Just keep it upside down on your tray. By keeping it upside down, it prevents the lip from getting distorted. So keep it upside down on your tray. You will end up wrapping this up, just not yet because it's going to be included in the photo that you take for today. If your clay is in the plastic stage, use a hairdryer for about 30 seconds and then test it again. And then if it still feels squishy, use a hairdryer for another 30 seconds and test it again until you get it to the stage where it's like cheddar or it's leather hard. Oh, I forgot to mention this part. The most important part that we need to keep workable is this rim, this lip, because that's going to be scored and slipped to your to the bowl that you end up making today. So just get a wet paper towel and wrap that wet paper towel around the rim of your pot, and then put it upside down on your tray. And then eventually this is definitely going to go in a bag to trap that moisture so that things don't dry out. I just don't want you to bag it yet because you're going to photograph it. Today is part of your photo that you take for today. Was there a comment from somebody at home? I heard it. I am actually going to bag mine for right now because I don't want it to dry out. Put it right there. So that's your second thing for today. Your third thing is to make a second bowl. So people at home, you're going to use the exact same bowl that you used the first time. You're going to do the same exact steps. Take the other half of your porcelain, make a slab out of it, put a plastic grocery bag inside the press mold, gently press the clay inside, smooth it around, redistribute it. You may need to save a little bit of that porcelain, like a golf ball size piece of porcelain, in the Ziploc baggie just for little additions that you might add later. People who are here in class, I will have extra porcelain for you, so you don't need to save a little part out, a golf ball. But people who are at home, save the golf ball out because you might want to make a little neck on your vase, or you might want to make a little handle on your jug. So save a little bit of porcelain for that. And this is where I say you might run out of porcelain, and if you do, just let me know, and I will get some to you sometime. So you're going to make that second bowl, scrape and redistribute the clay, smooth the inside with a damp sponge. And then for your fourth and final thing, you're going to put your porcelain slip container, your finished bowl that you popped out of the mold, and your new bowl that you made today, all together, those three things in the same picture. Take a photo of that and submit to Schoology by 3 p.m. Those are your assignments for today. And you're just going to photograph it in one photograph. So for the sake of people who are at home, and also for the people who are who weren't here on Friday, so you haven't really seen the step of making a bowl, and just as a reminder for those of you who were here on Friday, I am going to demo that third thing, the making of the second bowl. So people who are in back, can you guys just come and stand on either side up here so you can see the demo? People who are sitting at these tables here, you guys can probably see reasonably okay from where you're at. So I'm going to bring you guys over here. Turn this off. End my show. Stop sharing. And okay, there we go. All right, is this in your way? You okay? Can see? All right. So, as you recall, the people who are at home, you have one bowl, and you're making two of that same bowl, treating it as a press mold, and then the two bowls are going to come together. People who are here, I gave some bowls to you last week, and you might have two different bowls that you're going to end up putting together, and that's fine too. It'll just have a different sort of shape that way. And that's why I say people who work here on Friday, you could theoretically make both of your shapes today if you're using two different bowls. But people who are at home, you're reusing the same bowl. People who are here, you could reuse the same bowl too. That's fine. So I need to use this plastic bag because it's a softer plastic bag. I'm going to put that inside my press bowl. Just going to press mold and set it right there for a sec. People who are here, you'll have the option to use the slab roller to make your slab of clay. People who are at home, you're going to have to use either the rolling pin that I gave you or use the throwing technique where you take the clay and throw it diagonally away from yourself. And you want to stretch it as evenly as you can. I'm going a little quicker with this than I did on Friday because I know it's review for most of you. So I'm just always throwing a different edge leading forward so I get a pretty uniform stretch on my slab. And ideally, I want it to be about 1/4 of an inch thick. Then I'm going to take my press mold. I'm going to put my slab of clay on top of it. And really, really gently, I'm going to use my fingertips to make the clay slide into that bowl little by little. It's going to fold. It just naturally will do that because it doesn't like that flat thing, doesn't like going into a curved shape. So just be patient with that. If it rips, that's okay too. Okay, so now it's conforming to the mold. It's all the way down to the bottom, but I have this weird ripple at the top. So I'm just going to kind of fold that over. And then I'm going to blend it in because I don't want that fat ripple, that extra thickness up at the rim. I'm going to blend that clay downward using my fingers so that the thickness becomes redistributed a little bit. So it's kind of not so thick at the rim and then super thin everywhere else. So I'm just blending downward. If something ripped down in the center, you can take off a little bit of your extra clay and patch it like a Band-Aid, blend it in. All right, so once I've done that, then I'm going to take a damp sponge, do some more smoothing and compressing and blending so everything is just really smooth and neat on the inside as much as possible. And then I'm going to wrap it up by rolling the plastic bag over and covering the rim, which is the part we need to protect the most. And then I can let some air go to the inside so that the inside can start to get leather hard, but the rim stays more pliable. Okay, so your photograph would look like this, plus this, plus your little container of porcelain slip. One shot, all of that. Okay, then again, really super duper 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 important that you wrap up your original bowl. Don't leave that out in the open. You would have to make another one if you let that get bone dry. This would be a big, big hassle. So wrap that up as well. If you're here, put it in your locker. If you're at home, just put it somewhere safe in your workspace. People who are here, any questions on what you're doing today? Okay, so the first thing I want you to do, clean your slip container, find your porcelain object, put it in there, start slaking. Then I've portioned out your porcelain, so there's more porcelain today. It's all in kind of the size chunks that you might need. It's in those bags over there. And so you can take one of those, you can start using the slab roller. The canvas is already the correct way on the slab roller. It's the right thickness. I'm gonna check in with the people who are at home and talk to them a little bit. So I'm gonna leave you guys to do your thing for a couple minutes. All right, I'm gonna disconnect this. I'm gonna go like here. Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop recording now.